This is the regular meeting of the Albany Unified School District. May we have a roll call?
Superintendent Wells. Here. President Tutain.
Here.
Vice President Doss.
Here.
Trustee Clark.
Here.
Trustee Hinckley is absent. Trustee Duran.
Here.
Student Board Member Weinstein.
Here.
Student Board Member Mala.
Here.
Thank you. All who wants to can participate in the Pledge of Allegiance. Student board members, could you read our mission and vision statement and our meeting norms, please?
The mission of Albany Unified School District is to provide excellent public education that empowers all to achieve their fullest potential as productive citizens. AUSD is committed to creating comprehensive learning opportunities in a safe, supportive, and collaborative environment, addressing the individual needs of each student.
Meeting norms. Maintain a focus on what is best for our students. Show respect, never dismiss or devalue others. Be willing to compromise, disagree when necessary, agreeably. Make a commitment to effective deliberation, each one listening with an open mind, while others are allowed to express their points of view. Participate by building on the thoughts of a fellow board member. Make a commitment to open communication and honesty, no surprises. Commit the time necessary to govern effectively, be collaborative, maintain confidentiality, which leads to the building of trust, look upon history as lessons learned, focus on the present and the future.
Thank you very much. Okay. Let me see. There was no action taken in closed session, which brings us to approval of the agenda.
Excuse me, Superintendent, Madam Chair, can I ask and request, although it's absolutely the fact that we add specifically under closed session item 3-3, superintendent evaluation there for specificity, just so it's on the record of items discussed in closed session.
Okay, so I understand you to want to...
Yeah, for the minutes.
Okay, to add that discussion. Can you repeat that, please, Dr. Wells?
I'm assuming it was superintendent evaluation or whatever topic it was, just for the record.
Certainly.
So it's reflected in the minutes.
Certainly. Discussion of superintendent evaluation should be added to our minutes as item 3-3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And then we were at approval of the agenda, and I have a change. I would like to pull item 8-2 from the consent calendar so that we will deal with the rest of the consent calendar first, and then next we would deal with item 8-2. That's our committee and school assignments for 2019-20. There's a change that needs to be made. Okay? But any other changes to the agenda? Okay, may I have a motion?
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
Oh, the agenda, please.
I move that we approve the agenda.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and I'm assuming that that motion was with the change so described.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you. And then that brings us to the funnest part of our meetings, which is our school spotlight.
Hi, hello to our board and Superintendent Dr. Frank Wells, CBO Jackie Kim, Assistant Superintendent Marie Williams. Thank you for having us here tonight. We have a really wonderful team from AMS, as you can see, and we're each going to be sharing out a little piece this evening. You're distracted. Sorry. Okay, so I just want to take note of our little cover here, your beautiful mosaic, which I just wanted to put out a big shout out for our art teacher, Natasha Lucci, and a lot of amazing, wonderful community support, including Lisa Norman, who really partnered with her, tons of parents and students who came together, students who worked many lunches to put together this beautiful mural, and I think it's a mosaic. I think it's a wonderful way to enter into the schools. We have so many beautiful and amazing people who walk through our school doors.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, Principal Brill, but I do want to mention that there is an incredible time-lapse video of the day that went up on the wall that you can watch on our website, which is super fun, seeing that all come together in like a 3-minute video. So please give that a watch, too.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's pretty neat. So we're excited to have an opportunity to present to you about Albany Middle School, and want to kind of walk you through kind of some of our pieces of where we've come from, where we've been, where we're headed. And I think I want to start off by saying that Albany Middle School has been a wonderful school for a number of years, and we have an amazing staff there who's done a lot of really good work. And so before moving into what some of our challenges and concerns have been and that we're working to address, I want to just take a moment to acknowledge that we're starting from a really strong place. We have a really rigorous academic program. When teachers really look at differentiation, how can they support the students who are struggling in different subjects? How can they enrich things for students who need that extra challenge in different subjects? It's not the same kids, it's uneven. And looking at that, we have a curriculum that really embraces diverse perspectives. The teachers have spent a lot of time and continue to look at their novels, look at those stories, the poetry, the different pieces they read to make sure that we're representing diverse perspectives. We have so many clubs, sports, and activities for students to engage in at lunch. I think, it's one of the things that's most exciting when we bring in our new 6th graders and we start talking to them about the options, and they're like, we can do all of that at school at lunch, and there's just kind of something for everyone. We have a lot of school climate programs that we've built over the last, 7 or 8 years. We have our Safe School Ambassador program. We have PEAK, and there's more beyond that. We really look hard to keep expanding our sports programs and having equitable opportunities for all different students. Over the last several years, we've added on soccer, we've added on ultimate frisbee, we've added on flag football to try to make sure that we have different sports programs that are of interest to as many students as we can possibly engage. We have a wonderful drama program with lots of performance opportunities. If you've ever seen our spring musical or our fall scene showcase, art that extends to campus beautification like we were looking at the beginning, or our library with those amazing ceiling tiles. And so kids not only are producing art, but they're seeing their art enriching their school community. A growing computer program that now has robotics, and we now have space to be able to use those robotics. We've done a lot of work as a staff over the last several years on our essential standards, really having all teachers having rich discussion about what really is it that we feel like is essential for students to know, that it's not that when you walk into a 7th grade math class or an 8th grade English class, that the teachers, doesn't matter who the teacher is, they've all agreed on what's essential for students to know based on the Common Core state standards and their own professional look at those standards. And there's common formative assessments to be able to know how students are doing, whether they're meeting those standards, and then a response to those. And our teachers, I think one of the most promising pieces about our school and what makes it so that we continue to grow so much is that there's a real collaborative approach to teaching and learning. And our teachers work with one another. Hey, I really struggled on that lesson. What did you do? How did that work? Teachers observe each other, really looking at student learning. And so I think we have a really strong foundation at the school that people have worked hard on for a long time. And yet, we still have challenges, and it's one of the things I feel like is very important when we it's very easy to just say, Albany Middle School is such an amazing school, and look at all the great work we're doing, and look at our test scores, and look at all these pieces, and that's all true. And we've had a shift in our student population, and teachers are recognizing that we need new ways to connect and engage all students as part of our school community. How do we invite students in? And we still mirror the national statistics, and despite all the great work we're doing around achievement opportunity gap with our African American students, our Latinx students, who are low socioeconomic, ELD students, and students with disabilities. And I think that our staff is in complete agreement that we can't say okay, we're done, look at our scores, we're doing great, until every single student is learning at high levels. And so that's been the discussion and the work that we've been engaged in particular focus over the last several years of what are we going to do to make sure that every student is learning at those levels. And I think we've been in these conversations, but then last spring when we were having a lot of challenges at our school, as many of you are aware, our staff really engaged and just delved into problem solving. And it's one of the things I really appreciate, that their staff is like, oh my goodness, all of this is going on, this isn't working, we really felt like we were in crisis. But instead of just complaining or throwing in the towel, they came together, and we had really productive, engaging meetings where people are talking about, what are we going to do? How are we going to address this? How do we pull these students in who are getting pushed out? How do we manage our school in a way that all students feel safe, that all students feel engaged? And there's a lot of really amazing problem solving that happened. Some things that we could put in place immediately, and some things that we didn't have the resources to put in place. And as many of you know, there's a lot of advocacy on the middle school's part last year, in terms of the space that was needed, in terms of the resources that were needed. And we are now entering into this school year with a very different tone and feel on our campus. We still have challenges, of course. There's still going to be things, but we now have the resources that we need to address these challenges, and we're really proud and excited about this upcoming school year. It's a very different feeling. So the remainder of this presentation is going to be celebrating some of the pieces that we have moving forward into this school year, some of the new additions to our school community. I'm going to talk for one more slide and then turn it over to my amazing team. One of the pieces that teachers were talking a lot about was, okay, so we have a shift in student population, more kids who've experienced trauma, more students who are having a harder time kind of fitting with this is how we teach and this is how we do things. How do we engage these kids? How do we pull them in? How do we make sure that their needs are being addressed? And so one of the pieces, and thank you, Marie Williams, for supporting us with this, we are partnering with Candace Valenzuela, who is a wonderful professional development educator who we worked with once last year, and our whole staff loved her and are now bringing her back. She worked with us on our first staff development day, will work with us on our last staff development day, and then once a month meetings. And so instead of doing like a one-off piece, we're really bringing it through as a thread throughout our year. And the focus is on culturally responsive practices, trauma-informed practices, and building resilience in our students. And how do we do that as in classrooms? And it's what's wonderful about it is it's based on the research and a lot of studies and all those pieces, but it's practical and collaborative. And then you're about to hear from Ms. Ieda about our advisory program, which is one of our big pilot highlights this year, but we feel like in order to make that successful, and that's going to be sort of a cornerstone this year in our school, we have 2 staff meetings a month that are dedicated to supporting our teachers' success with this program. And part of it is about the program itself and how do we run that program, and part of it is about having given staff meeting time that's structured, where there's opportunities to collaborate about students, where teachers are working together. And we know students one student might be doing really well in one teacher's class and struggling in another, and for another student it might be the opposite. And so how do we give opportunities for teachers to work together and partner to make sure that we're supporting all of our students? So that's our professional development focus, and I'm now going to turn it over to Stacey Ieda.
Good evening, everyone. So my name is Stacey Ieda. I'm an 8th grade English and history teacher at AMS. I'm also a parent of a 10th grader and a 7th grader at our Albany schools, and I'm also a resident of Albany. So, Albany is really important to me, and I'm really happy that I can be here to talk about an exciting new pilot program. I think I'm also I have a lot of insight about this because for the past 2 years I served as the Safe and Inclusive Schools Coordinator for the K through 8 schools. And I have to say, out of all of the different programs I was in charge of and that I oversaw and I worked with, I always felt like the advisory program needed more. weren't quite getting it right, and it was becoming a place where there's just too many things happening. We needed to get back to basics and make it more simple and make it more effective. So I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about the how we're doing advisory, and then I'll talk to you about the why. So the how is illustrated in this slide. You can see that this is my classroom. The chairs are in a big circle. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind. And the reason we came with this is because we had a group of teachers go visit Adele Harrison Middle School in Sonoma last spring, and it was inspiring. We asked a lot of questions, we took many notes, and we also they were wonderful in terms of sharing their knowledge and their experience with doing advisory a little bit differently. We also, as you can see on the slide, all the staff members have this book called the Advisory Book, and it's just focused on how to help builds the social, emotional well-being of adolescents with a structured program. You can also see there's a beach ball. So the beach ball is just a symbol of one of the tools that we use during our advisory program that we're piloting this year. And then finally, you see that it says CPR, standing this time for Circles of Power and Respect. And that is one of the golden parts of this advisory program, is to create a tight, safe, welcoming community in each advisory classroom. Okay, so I thought that I would very quickly, it won't take long, and I think you'll get the idea. I'm going to ask each of you to do a welcome with me, okay? It's going to be easy. So I'm going to say, good evening, everyone, and because my name's Stacy, you'll say, good evening, Stacy, okay? And we're going to go around and just do that, okay? So I'll go first. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Stacy.
And then you can say, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, everyone.
Say,
Good evening.
good evening,
Julie.
Julie.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Audrey.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Michaela.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Clementina.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Jacob.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Brian.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Kim.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Frank.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Jackie.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Marie. And good evening to all of you, too. So you can see it creates a nice beginning. This is one of the features. We always do a welcome or a greeting. We do a sharing, and then we do an activity. And so now, for the next slide, so this is the why. We do it because we think that middle school students have very specific social emotional needs, and 4 very important ones are autonomy, competence, relationship, to build relationship, to feel a relationship with adults and their peers at school, and to have some fun. And so the advisory program is just really focused on that, and we're very excited. The first week of school, we did it every single day, and then after that, we are doing it on Wednesdays. And we will be doing 2 circles of power and respect every month, and then also have a community building week, and then finally the 4th week of the month will be more of a direct instruction lesson. And so we're just very excited that we've made this change this year. Thank you.
The next 2 pieces are going to be talking about mentor affinity groups that we have in place. And we have up next Camille Fisher.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Camille.
Yeah, I got applause. Accepted. Thank you so much. I'm Camille Fisher. I'm the other half of the Math 8 department at Albany Middle School. I also co-facilitate the African American Mentorship in an Affinity Group with Tyrone Rose and Tunisia Pierce. So we know and understand in order for students to learn and feel connected, they need to be part of the school community. And we also know that African American population is small and is spread out amongst our campus. So we saw a need for the African American Mentorship Group to help address some of these needs that we saw, and also helping the students feel supported and having time and place just to come together. So last year, year, our focus was mentorship. We decided to have 7th and 8th graders mentor 6th graders, and we would meet once a lunch and provide students with a hot lunch. And however, as the year progressed, our meetings started to shift towards more of an affinity group. They became a place for students to feel 100% themselves and discuss challenges and successes that they had on and off of campus. So this year, we decided to operate solely as an affinity group, and that's how we're going into it in our mindset. We hope that, no, we don't hope, we will continue to help students feel connected and to be part of the school community, and we plan to meet at least once a week, also on top of the additional once a month, to help close the achievement gap and really help students academically and have a little check-in with them at lunch. So it's a great feeling this year to be on campus, and I see the kids, and every single time we light up when we see each other, and whenever they see one of the other adults or one of the other members of the group, and they don't even say hello. It's like, when are we meeting? And I have to say, okay, well, wait, let us meet with so-and-so and so-and-so, and we're gonna plan it, and we'll get it together for you. And I know many of them would say that they go for the pizza that we provide each time, but we all know the truth is they come for the community, and that's what we're really about. So thank you for Deb and for the other teachers to really support us being on campus and having our group.
And also just a shout out to the Black Parent Advisory Group who has been funding the pizza and supporting this program all along the way. And now we have Adriana Hernandez talking about our new Latinx mentor program that we're starting this year. Oh, and are you going to present? And Jen Duran, both of them, yay. I love guest stars.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Okay, hi. So my name is Adriana Hernandez, and I teach 6th grade math and science and reading.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Duran. I also teach 6th grade math and science and reading at AMS.
So together and with the help of another teacher, we're going to be starting up the Latinx Mentorship Affinity Group. Our goal is to help students feel connected to the school, teachers, peers, and the wider community. We want students to have a safe place to be seen, heard, and to feel like they can be themselves. We hope to achieve this by building relationships between peers across all of the grade levels.
And so with Familias Latinas of Albany, they'll be helping to support our efforts by inviting Latinx community guest speakers and providing a hot lunch for our meetings. So thank you very much for that. And we really want students to feel taken care of and to be able to see themselves in the wider community. So we're really excited to begin the year and to see how this program is going to build and grow. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn that back so you're not reading it while I'm talking. I know how this works. The next piece that we're going to be talking about is something that I know board members are really aware of, and certainly a lot of our community members are. Shared it in our Welcome Back to Families letter. But when we were engaged in some really deep problem solving as a staff last spring, one of the things that we recognized is that when kids are really struggling and having a hard time being in class, and for a lot of different reasons that I'm gonna save, there wasn't any place for them to go. We have a counseling office that is a very small space. The counselors are meeting individually with students who need to talk and receive counseling. Our main office is also a very busy place. We only have one main office where people are coming and going, and that when students needed a space, that space to decompress, to process, to whatever it was that they needed, that didn't exist, and was causing a lot of challenges for those students, and then a lot of challenges then in response for the rest of the school community. And so our leadership team, it came out of our staff meeting and then was sent to our leadership team, and we worked very hard on a proposal with a lot of really deep conversation of what would this look like, and how, we know that we want kids in classrooms. That's where they learn, that's where they can have academic success. So our goal is to always have them be successful there, but if they can't, what do we do to give them the tools they need in order to be successful? And so we worked very hard on a proposal, and then have deep gratitude to our superintendent, Dr. Frank Wells, for allowing this program to move forward this year, and to our entire Board of Education for supporting it. It is just getting off the ground, and already we can feel it on our school community. The team that we have with Will Kaysen, who's going to be talking in a moment, and the space that exists, it is an immense difference, and we're only just beginning. So I'm going to turn it over now to Will Kaysen, who's done an amazing job coming in, getting to know our school community, being a presence on our campus, collaborating with teachers, building relationships with students, building relationships with staff, and we're really excited about the road ahead with him. So I'm going to let him tell you more about it.
Well, it is a tremendous Tuesday evening. I want to commend Dr. Wells and also to the board for your courageous effort. I believe when we look at our country and around the globe that we all believe that students can succeed and they need a safe and secure place in which they can exhibit their talents and their treasures, but also having a place where they can be calm, a place that can address their social and emotional needs, but also an awareness of what are some undiagnosed traumas that students may be experiencing. And so to this wonderful and amazing team at AMS and to the great city here in Albany, I thank you for allowing the school and believing in the lives of students that you created such a space for students. My name is Will Kaysen, and I lead the social and emotional wellness piece for students in this place that we call Student Success Space as the mental health leader there at Albany Middle School. And I'm a big component of students, and I travel the country and have written about student success. And for you to have that type of ambition to know that students' lives matter, and all students. And so for the past 14 days, I've spent my time building relationships with students, being engaged and being visible on campus, and just meeting students. And just yesterday, when I was walking back, a student said to me, "Who are you?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She says, "I just love this energy when you come to school each morning, you give each other folks high fives or fist bumps, and you say to them, 'I'm glad that you're a student here at Albany Middle School,' and it's exciting." She said, "I'm a new student. My family moved from Orinda. We came to Albany because we wanted this type of school environment." And so for me, and working collaboratively with the team, it's amazing what's happened in the past past 14 days. As of today, we've had 40 students to visit the Student Success Space. The highest attendance is around Thursday at 11 o'clock in the morning. And students come from various reasons. Some students say, "Mr. Kaysen or Coach C, I'm coming because I want to just calm down," or "I heard about the space." The space has a psychology of colors. And so when you walk in, it's a space that is calming. And I'm so thankful, Brian Doss, you got a chance to visit the space. And also we have an area, what we call our aromatherapy. So different modalities of learning and how do you engage students. And I believe in the Howard Gardner's approach that there's different ways to connect with students. And we have stations throughout the room that touch the students in a unique way where they can do journal writing, they can listen to soft music, they can sketch, they can create a positive affirmation about themselves. And students that show up in this space, when they leave, here's one of the assignments they do. They either write a positive affirmation about themselves, or what are they going to do when they return back to class to stay focused and stay engaged in the classroom activities. And so you'll see some of the highlights of the collaboration, the social and emotional network that happens. But one of the key things that's really important for students to succeed, and it shows in research and evidence-based approaches, that students need a safe and secure place. They need caring adult role models, and they need tools and access and resources to help them be successful and thrive in a global market. And I want to share with you when it comes to what it looks like. I remember on August the 14th, I received a text from Deb, and Deb says, "Hey, listen, the board approved the position. When can you come? Can you be here tomorrow?" And I says, "Of course, Deb, I'll be there tomorrow." And so Deb walks me into this room, and you can see the fourth picture on room 210. And she said, "Here it is." She said, you can decorate it and do whatever you want to the space." So there I sat in the middle of the classroom and I thought about something. I was reminded of Eric Erickson, and when he talks about the stages of development for children, he shared about how you just sit in the room, and instead of just trying to create things, you just wait for things to come to you. And as I sat in the middle of the classroom, I started imagining and visualizing what this space will look like for when a student, imagine when you walk to school, and maybe you've had a tough day or challenging day at home, and maybe the school is not aware of that. And you walk in, and it could be a Monday morning, it could be some things that has happened during the weekend, and now I'm back in my school environment, and now I need a place that I can feel calm, and I can feel safe, and I can feel supported. And so with this space, you can imagine when students walk in, sometimes they walk in like this, and they walk into these colors, and they see this room, and hear the aromatherapy, and the nonverbals of them change. They say, "I just feel calm, Mr. C, Coach C, I feel calm." I said, "This is your space. Whatever you would like to do, wherever you like to go in that space and operate." And that's what's happened. You can see now the after Look at what it looks like now, the student success space. So let me just give you a small vignette of what it may look like as I was sharing over here with this dialogue. Is imagine that you're in a classroom and it's a challenge for you. It could be a challenge academically, or it could be a challenge of you're working on self-regulation, or it could be a challenge of you just want to know just breathing some when it comes to mindfulness activities. So your teacher says, well, here's not a referral. We say, this is your invitation to the student success space. Here's your invitation, and the teacher kind of jot down some things that you may be exhibiting in the classroom, and that information comes to me at the student success space. The student signs in, and with the Chromebook that we're having now, student signs in with the real time and how many minutes they need, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 15 minutes. And then once they get there, they choose to go to one of these stations that we have set up for the social and emotional learning to engage them. And at their time, when they're ready, they may say, Coach Sieg, Mr. Kason, Mr. Will, I'd like to talk with you. And we have different modalities that set up in the room to engage students in a meaningful conversation that builds relationships, that connects with students. And those are some of the things that's been happening. I've been so amazed and thankful. I'm glad to be a part of this collaborative effort in this team, because I believe what you're doing here at Albany, that you're really creating a paradigm shift. That if I look at what's going around the world and globe, and also look at what happens in industry, that every fabric of our country and our world needs places that people can be creative, they can be safe, they can be secure, that they can have an abundance of opportunities. And that's what this space feels like for students. And it's been wonderful of what's been happening with the lives of students, as I mentioned, since the first day of school to as of today. 40 students have got a chance to visit this space and start working on just being the best that they can be. And we're going to have an official kickoff on the 26th. And Deb, can I have your permission? Is it okay if I invite the whole board to come in? This kicks off. Okay. Just wanted to make sure I check in with my leader first. But we'd like to invite. Okay. But we're going to have an official kickoff on the 26th of this month. That kind of just put a nice big ribbon on the door, multiple colors. And Deb has these amazing scissors in her office, and we're just going to cut the ribbon, have some classical jazz music playing, and just open up the space. And Brian Doss, yes, I want to talk to you about that fish tank that we mentioned about your brother-in-law. So yes, and thank you for that. And we're going to have this amazing celebration as we just open it up to the school community. But most of all, this is our space for our students. And I believe that, based on the things that we've seen early on, and this has only been about 14 days, that it's going to be a huge success in this space. And the last thing I'll share with you as I get ready to close on this one, the first week of school, some students had heard about the space, and they says, Mr. C, can we come to the space for lunch and hang out? I says, of course, we'll set something up for lunch. And last Friday, it was 12 students gathered together, all different backgrounds, and we made a circle. Of course, we operate on the philosophy of our circle and our advisory, and we had this tennis ball toss, and I said to students, I said, tell me something that's been great about today. And we dialogued, because it's important we have stories that connects us. And I said, if you could change anything about today, what would you change? And what's your reason for changing that? And we had that, and when I was leaving campus today, a student walked up to me and said, Mr. C, when is the next lunchtime in your room in the student success space? I said, give me a couple of days to think about it. We'll set something up again. So I want to thank you on this tremendous Tuesday, and also thanks for the support again. And we believe that this is making a huge impact in the lives of students. Thank you.
Thank you. And then our final part of our presentation is about our annex, because all of these pieces that we've talked about would not be possible without the extra space we have. The advisory program, we have 22 kids in a class. You can't really effectively operate the types of circles we're doing with less. We would, without the extra classroom space, we would not have done this advisory program. There's no way we could have run it with the class sizes that we would have had otherwise. And similarly, the chances of having an extra classroom space to have a program like it was just described without the annex space was not possible. We also have a special ed lab in a regular classroom instead of in this tiny little room I was in before, where the students have an appropriate classroom space. We have a teacher in there, a different special ed teacher. We have it covered all day long, so students who have IEPs who need a space to go to do work now have a great space with an adult in it as well. So the breathing space on our campus, we were talking about this at leadership yesterday, and one of the teachers, was that you? I was one of you, who was like, our hallways, you can breathe in our hallways. And everyone started clapping and cheering. We're like sitting around a circle and everyone's like cheering. The enthusiasm about being able to walk through our hallways without feeling like you're going to get run over. Not because kids are being inappropriate, because there's so many of them. So just the differences of just the way our campus feels with just this extra classroom space is amazing. And if you haven't had a chance to go over and look at the classrooms, I mean, our Performing Arts Center, watching our drama teacher running drama programs in this beautiful black box theater, our technology program, I had a student come up to me the other day and be like, do you know that this year the computers are in a nice big space, we can do robotics, and they have all the keys on them? I was like, I know, it's the little things. So they're feeling this feeling of being in a tech lab. We have these 4 beautiful 8th grade English history classrooms that are decorated and warm and welcoming. The other effect that that's had is on our main campus. I have never seen so many teachers there so early setting up their classrooms, painting their classrooms, decorating their classrooms, buying welcome mats for their classrooms because it's their classroom. And teachers were talking about the ability, Ms. Fisher was talking about like I can greet my students at the door when they walk in. I can talk to them for a couple minutes after class. I'm not jumping on my cart to run to the next class. I mean, everybody is just really deeply feeling the difference in so many different ways. So we're just incredibly grateful for this beautiful space and excited for the year that AMS has ahead. So that concludes our formal presentation. And if you have questions, we're happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, all of you, for coming here tonight, and thank you for the invitation. Coach Will, I'm sure you will see all of us sooner or later. We'll visit. And let me see, open for a few questions, although we are running behind, so let's keep it brief, guys. Go ahead.
Well, President Chutang, we've been ending these meetings on time like 2 weeks in a row, so I think it's time to run over. We gotta.
You'll get your wish tonight.
Your wish. No, I think what's happening there is great. I got a chance to walk through the halls, peek into some classrooms, got a chance to see the success space. I always stop by your math class, even if you don't know that I'm stopping by there. And I'm impressed every time. I can't wait for Madison to take that class. So make sure she's in that class, Deborah. Thank you. But no, I just really appreciate the work that all you guys are doing there. And I'm appreciative of it. I can see the changes right away, and it's only been a few weeks of school, and you can already see a huge difference. So it feels like all of the late meetings and all of the work that went into it paid off. So I feel good about that.
I wanted to say something. Middle school was definitely a very, very difficult time for me, and I think it's a difficult time for everyone. But I know I definitely strayed away from what was probably better for me at the time. And I know that having teachers, and also my family, but definitely teachers and a school community where I felt like there were resources that I could reach out to was, I think, what brought me back to a place where I'm a lot happier now. And I mean, I'm a student board member. I'm, not doing horribly with my education. So things could be worse. And I think that efforts like these, and teachers and administrators and staff doing things like this, like the advisory circles, like the mentorship and affinity groups, like the Student Success Lab, and the Latinx group that you had just talked about. That type of stuff is what gets students like me and other students kind of back into what keeps them sane. And so from a past student at the middle school to you guys, kind of speaking for the students that are currently at the middle school, it's appreciated so much and means much, much more than students can oftentimes express at the time. But I know what it was like to be in a space where I was just not happy. And I know that This is appreciated so much. So thank you.
Your enthusiasm just bubbles over, and I just wanted to say that I'm really proud to be the board representative this year to AMS. So I'll be seeing all of you very soon.
Thank you for a great spotlight.
I just want to say it feels really good to be at a board meeting with the sole purpose of sharing celebrations and expressing gratitude. So thank you for that opportunity.
Okay, and that brings us to the consent calendar. Okay, that brings us to the consent calendar, which will not include item 8-2. Do we have any questions on consent items? I want to point out to the board that there is a printout in front of them. Dr. Wells, would you like to clarify the printout?
Yes, the printout you have before you was initially we had one of our folks who are separating from the district. We had them listed as hired, so we made the correction and put them under separation opposed to hire so that it reflect the actual actions. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and so with that, can I get a motion on the consent calendar, please?
I move that we approve the consent calendar with the one holdover for discussion that Kim, you mentioned earlier.
And with the correction on the printed sheet that we have in front of us?
Correct.
Okay. Yes, Board Member Clark.
Did I hear it wrong? I thought you had said something about the school assignments for board members.
Yeah, but that's on 8.2. So we're voting on everything except for 8.2. Yeah. Okay. Motion on the floor. Would anyone like to second the approval of the consent calendar? Student board member?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now that brings us to the discussion of 8.2. So in your agenda packet, you see all of the school assignments and committee memberships that we had discussed at our previous meeting. Thank you, Julie, for bringing that up. But if you go down, there's one committee, the Sustainability and Integrated Design Committee, that's listed to be on hold. The committee contacted me earlier this week and said that they do not want to be on hold. They want to be an active committee this year and indeed would like to have more members and they would like to have board representatives. Okay? So because this committee was formed before any of us were on the board, I printed out, I asked Julie to please print out the paper that you see in front of you from the August 9th, 2016 board meeting. And this is two things. It talks a bit about the committee itself so that you can, glance over it briefly and see if this is something that you're interested in. And it also gives the resolution that was passed that describes what we're doing on our construction projects in terms of sustainability. So I just wanted to point out, let me see. In the resolution that was adopted, it for one thing, it says that the Board of Education directs staff to report to the board annually on the progress of this sustainability program and include an annual summary assessment of energy and water use in the buildings that have been built according to this protocol. So this is coming to us now because now for the first time we have a building that's been built according to these CHIPS guidelines, and that's the AMS Annex. use. And so what this is saying is that it's saying that we need to assess energy use and sustainability features of that building in an ongoing manner and get reports back to see how it's doing. For example, we installed a solar array on that building, which was expected to produce about 80% of the energy that the building needs to run. But that was a guess. We don't know if it's actually going to produce, 100% of the energy it needs, or whether it's only going to produce 60. So these kind of, now that we finally have a building that we can monitor, we need to see how we're doing. And the committee, of course, is still participating actively in the design and construction issues of all of the other projects as well. So, given that, I know that I'm interested in this, so I would be happy to be one of the board representatives. But would anyone else care to join the Sustainability and Integrated Design Committee?
Madam President, this committee would really just be sort of an overarching committee that would be looking at these issues, for example, as outlined here, number 1 through 6, including everything that you've mentioned thus far. And is that the purpose, and then to just report back to the board?
Yeah, I think they want to have representatives on all of the design teams that are currently underway. We have board representatives on the Ocean View and on the Marin Design Committee, so we've taken care of that part. But the idea of the energy monitoring, and also they spoke of, and I'm a little bit less clear on this, about the use of these buildings themselves as a teaching tool for environmental science, that perhaps we want to have the high school students actually do the monitoring of the energy use through the solar panels at the annex, and they're going to try to see how we can integrate student involvement in our new buildings. So I'm sure that the members themselves can maybe explain a little bit more about what they're interested in on that. I think that perhaps what we can do for now is that we can indicate that it's not on hold, and that I will serve as a board representative. And then as we get more details, I'll put it out to the rest of the board, and we'll see if we can find someone who, once we know when the meetings will be, if it's convenient for someone to join me on that. Okay. Okay, and then if that's agreeable, then just with those 2 modifications, taking it off hold and adding myself as the board rep, we will then put this back on consent at a later meeting. Okay. Great, thank you very much, board. And then that brings us to review and action. Oh, I'm sorry, no, that brings us to superintendent and board member reports. Dr. Wells?
I'm up first. Thank you for the opportunity to present my brief report tonight. First up, I just want to mention that I had an opportunity over the last couple of weeks to visit all the schools. Just recently today, I was at the high school visiting every classroom and every teacher, and that was just a wonderful experience. You get to see teaching and learning. It's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to see it. You have some amazing teachers up there, and I can see why parents fight to get their kids in the schools here, because we have some amazing, committed teachers who do some amazing work each and every day, and for that, my hat's off to them. I also had an opportunity, I have scheduled now to meet with our 2 student board members who are sitting right in front of me every other week at lunchtime. So it's bring your bag lunch, and we get an opportunity to discuss all the wonderful things that are happening in and around the school and the community, and some potential challenges and possible resolution. And the goal here is to promote student voices, to get student perspective on small, medium, and large issues. Number 3 of my report is that our focus this year with our leadership team, we decided, would be student data protocols, how best to respond to students' data, and allow that data to inform actions, more specifically instruction, so that we can have the optimum ideal teaching and learning. And number 4, under communication, I'm pleased to say we have scheduled for the rest of the year meetings with myself and each leadership, union leadership, SEIU, CSEA, and ATA on a regular basis. What I've learned, and I've learned a lot in my short 2 months here, is that the issues that are on the table, generally speaking, are long-standing issues. But despite that, we are committed to trying to resolve them together this year. And so I'm excited about that. Doesn't mean we always agree, but I think we all agree on the issues need to be resolved. Updated ratio, 2019-2020. When I first arrived, there was some data presented by California School Services about the large number of administrators. And I know the district went through quite a few cuts prior to arriving. And I wanted to see what was the updated numbers for 2019-2020. And so School Services did the research for us, and here's what they came up with. It's kind of small. If you could blow it up a little bit. Can you guys see that from here?
I can see this.
Okay, so here are thank you. Here are like districts for our updated administrative ratio, and the average is, I think, 6.8 in the state. And as you can see with like districts, we're at the bottom. But you see Windsor Unified School District is an anomaly. And so I was really curious about that and inquired further. And what I discovered was if you look at how much money they spend more than us, because instead of administrators, they have a bunch of teachers, we call teachers on special assignment, doing those duties. For example, for one administrator, you have 4 of those teachers, which costs you 4 times, almost more than twice the administrator. So that's how their numbers are low, but that's their preference in terms of how they want to do business. So that is a real anomaly. It doesn't mean they're spending less. Actually, they're spending more. They just have fewer administrators. So that was unexplainable for me. I needed to know that. So that's our new number going into 2019-2020. We're at 5.2%, and among the lowest in like districts throughout the state. I've had a long weekend this weekend. Next slide. I had an opportunity to spend a couple of days in Southern California at one of our annual meetings around education and working on a number of topics that are near and dear to my heart. One is recruiting and retaining top quality teachers and creating a diverse teaching population. And so I had an opportunity to work pretty much all day. Next slide, if possible. I'm going to just pause here. And work all day with a gentleman, very notable gentleman. He happens to be the new CTA president, Toby Boyd, and him and I took a picture because we were recognized for some outstanding achievement throughout California in our work. But Toby made history because Toby is the first in CTA 156-year history African-American male to ever serve as president. And he's serving with an agenda to put kids first, to recruit top-notch teachers, and provide those teachers with the utmost support. And so we're hit it off and committed to stay in touch as we are now kindred in spirit. So I wanted to get that picture up with me and Toby. So, and then finally, I will continue to be visible, meeting with all students at all levels and meeting with all the student groups, and just making sure we have our student voices heard throughout the district and throughout the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that update. You've been very busy.
Yes.
Board members?
I have a question about the list of different school districts and how much they spend as percentage on administrators. You said that you found that list because it's similar sized districts. I'm just wondering, like, how did you specifically decide that you were going to do these? Because I'm sure there's like many, many, many similarly sized.
Thank you. I don't have that expertise. I wish I did. We have a really expert service in California called California School Services, who do all of this for every district in the state of California. The 1,011 districts they do that for, and they do these kind of studies that they publish annually, and so you can pick up their books and see where we rank. And I asked them to give me an advance notice of where we are now so that the board would have an updated ratio, because the last ratio they saw, I think it showed 9 point something or something close to 10. And I think that was the last narrative that was in front of the board. And so I wanted to give them an updated narrative.
Okay, so you contacted them and they just give you this list, and you're not sure how they selected these districts, but this is what they gave?
Yes, we do have data on how these districts were selected. So this is California School Services, so they produced this information for us. And here we are. Administrator salary expenditures made between the district and 14 similarly sized unified districts in California. Each of the 14 districts has an average daily attendance between 2,500 and 5,000, and an unduplicated pupil percentage between 10% and 50%, which are comparable to the district's ADA of 3,623 and UPP of 28%. So it was California School Services that decided on the criteria to get out a sample of this size, which ended up to be 14 unified districts.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a question as well for the superintendent regarding your new association with the CTA president, and given your comment about their work in recruiting and retaining teachers of color. In some future board meeting, would we be able to have either a report or a look at how Albany is developing a plan for that?
Absolutely. I would be excited and enthused to share with you our efforts moving forward in terms of trying to make that happen for our district.
Just to take care of that now, is there a second for agendizing that item?
A second.
All right. We will get that agendized. All right. Board members, would any of you like to give a brief update before we get to our student updates?
Quick update. Two things. One, got an opportunity to visit each of the sites in the morning time, just to kind of see how kids were transitioning in. I know it's a huge change for kindergartners. They have to be there really early in the morning, but they're resilient, and seeing them kind of going in and transitioning in. Then I went over to the middle school over by the annex area to see kind of how things were going there. I noticed that some parents were doing drop-offs a little further away, which eased up the traffic, and then kids were walking in. It seemed also that people were being really accommodating to the younger students, because they know the parents have to walk them in. So, people were letting them, park in different places. I saw a couple of people letting people park in their driveways, which was really nice. So I noticed that, which was great. Got an opportunity to, I get an opportunity every morning to go to breakfast at Marin, and I've been seeing the numbers growing and growing, and the happy faces of kids eating, because like adults, kids like food, so that's exciting. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention was that I spent some time on the Solano stroll this past
Sunday.
Thank you, Kim. Sometimes I get my days, turned around. This past Sunday, and it was great to kind of walk in and talk to people, and I got an opportunity to, meet with some different people. I had a really good conversation with one of the representatives from the Pine School. I think it's the Pines.
Black Pine Circle.
Black Pine Circle in Berkeley. So I had a great conversation with them. A little bit of a debate, which was fun, of why Albany is better, but since he's not here to defend himself, I'll tell you that I won the debate. So we should be seeing some new students coming from Black Pine real soon. But no, it was a great opportunity to walk up and down Solano and just talk to people, and it seems like people are excited about the new year, which was really great. So looking forward to things to come. Thank you.
I just wanted to mention that I have not been able to get to the schools yet because I've been on jury duty since mid-August. So hopefully soon my civic duty will terminate.
Yeah, thank you for participating in that. I know that can be very difficult. And I just had one brief thing to add to our board member reports, which is Dr. Wells and I staffed the booth for the Albany Unified School District at the Solano Stroll, and we had a giveaway this year, which were bumper stickers. So this bumper sticker, which says, "We support Albany Public Schools," was created, and we were asking folks that came up to the booth, how are you supporting Albany schools? Which could have been volunteering or, being a PTA member or any of a number of things. And we gave away a lot of these bumper stickers, and the district had extra. And so now these have been, these are in all of the elementary school offices and the ACC office, and are also being divided with the PTAs, so that the PTAs will have some of these to give away at their events. There's also a few on the table at the back if you want to take home your own cute sticker with all of our school mascots on it. Okay. Now, let's move on to the student board member report.
Thank you. So at Albany High School, Club Rush will be held tomorrow, September 11th, at lunch in the courtyard. And their students will be able to learn more about and sign up for various student-led clubs while enjoying baked goods and other foods that each club is sharing. And then seniors are participating in the numerous college visits at lunch to learn more about the various prospective schools they may attend next fall. Some of the colleges include UC Berkeley, Duke, Pitzer, and Northeastern. And then back to school night is tomorrow, September 10th at 7 p.m. Sorry, September 11th at 7 p.m. And then I saw Superintendent Wells in my first and third period, and I know my teachers were very happy to see him, and all the students were also very excited to meet him. And then going on to Albany Middle School, clubs such as Gender Sexualities Alliance, Drama Club, and Chess Club are resuming for the year, which all students can participate in at lunch. And back to school night will be held from 6:30 to 8 p.m. on September 19th.
At all elementary schools, 5th grade choir parents meeting will be held on September 18th at the Ocean View Multipurpose Room. At back to school night for all elementary schools will be on September 12th. At Cornell, the first PTA meeting will be in the Cornell Multipurpose Room on September 12th as well. And at Ocean View, the PTA meeting will be on September 18th in the library. Like I said, last board meeting, me and Audrey wanted to start talking about issues that students were having in their classes and ideas that we had, or what we're giving an update about what we're doing to try and combat those. So the update for this week is we met with Dr. Wills, as he said, on Monday, yesterday. He brought pizza, which was very nice of him. And we talked about the large class sizes that a lot of students are suffering from. That was something that I had brought up. Audrey actually had brought up, and then I added to at the last board meeting. And so we met with him to talk about why that is and how we can try to lessen the effects of that this year, but also make sure it doesn't happen in future years. Obviously, it's a much bigger problem than can be resolved within one meeting. But just from that conversation, we talked about how in the coming weeks we're going to hopefully be balancing out some of the class sizes. And that can look different for different classrooms, but that's something that we're going to hopefully be publicizing to the students so that they can at least be more aware of why their classes are large, or, what we can do in future years, or just trying to understand why, what the process of that and how to lessen that. So that's something we're going to be publicizing to the student body. And hopefully we'll be able to talk more about it this year so that something like that doesn't happen as much next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that brings us to persons to address the board on matters not on the agenda. So, see? Great.
Good evening, everyone. Nino Castillo McIntyre. I'm the father of India McIntyre, a second grader in the special day class at Cornell Elementary, and the father of a future, I don't know, kindergarten, first grader, Ulysses McIntyre. Thank you, Michaela, for what you shared earlier today about your experience in middle school. I really appreciate that. It makes me realize that one day I might have wayward children, but they too can become student board members, so there's hope for them. What I want to say today is kind of similar to the student updates that, student board member updates that you have today. You had the sticker that asked how you support Albany schools, and I'd like to remind you that the Albany Community Triathlon is taking place at the end of the month, and that the funds for that event support the Albany Boosters for athletics in Albany Unified. The Albany Community Center, I don't work for them, but I have a strong relationship with them. They put up a number of events, including the Marine Monsters race on Sunday, September 22nd. Albany Week, that entire week between the Marine Monster and the Albany Community Triathlon. And they also facilitate community members organizing their own events. So I'll pass some flyers this time, one for each and every one of you. We're organizing a block, what should be this time the second annual block movie night on the 1000 block of Key Route. Last year we hosted a film viewing of Coco, which many of you may have seen, the Pixar film. This year, for a variety of reasons, but mainly because we are dark and morbid, we're going to stay with the theme of death, and we're going to show the movie The Book of Life, which is also about the Day of the Dead. So if any or more of you are able to make it, we would love to see a few of you there. And I know where some of you live. So that's not a threat. That's an invitation to walk over and join other members of your community. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I'm a little out of some of the orders of all this because I'm new to it, and I had to go to my other son's preschool orientation. So is that okay if I just jump up for a sec? All right?
This is matters not on the agenda.
Not on the agenda.
Go right ahead.
Is that okay?
We're happy to hear from you.
So I'm wearing my parent hat because I'm also a new teacher at Cornell, and it's been really wonderful. But I'm wearing my parent hat right now because I'm also the mom of a new kindergartner at Cornell. And I have one little concern, and I'm working with the school on this. I just donated a fan today to his classroom, but it's so hot in the building that my little guys come out with headaches every day this week and like red flushed cheeks. So I just wanted to bring it up to your attention as the board. If there's anything we can do to help get fans into the main building at Cornell, some AC units. I know that our principal had a safety measure in place that I think she kind of had to take out of place because of ventilation reasons. So I just wanted to bring it up to your attention. I'm working with the principal and everyone as a mom. But it does seem like it's very uncomfortable for the students in that building right now. So anything that we can do, and also as a business owner in Albany, we're happy to help support that further as well with fundraising or anything we need to do.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention. This.
So it was not on the agenda, and she spoke at the right time. I know I can't address her, but can I address staff?
Yes, you can address staff.
Yeah, I'd like to make a request that we at least get fans in there. Being a teacher myself in kindergarten, it can be very difficult when the classrooms are hot for everyone involved. And I don't know if it's a formal motion or a request, but, fans, that we can take care of that pretty easily, I think.
Trustee Jacobs, I just want to let you know that we're going to treat it like a 911 tomorrow morning. This is the first I've heard of it. Haven't even seen a ticket for it, but it would be first thing in the morning. And I will give you an update on Friday regarding this matter.
Thank you very much.
And you reminded me of something else. I still had 30 seconds in my previous slot, so I can still make it in that time frame. My daughter is in the special day class at Cornell, and there is not a window in the door looking into the classroom, and that is a safety issue for a variety of reasons. And I don't know if the same setup if the setup is the same at other classrooms at Cornell, as well as other classrooms in the other sites, but we would like to also address that along with the ventilation issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Similar, actually, exactly what Jacob said, just insert new door.
Now we're going to move to review and action agreement for special services with Atkinson, Andelson, Loya, Red, and Roma. And I'll give Dr. Wells a moment to finish his note. No. So would you like to present on our Atkinson, Andelson, Loya, Red, and Roma
Sure.
contract?
I had, after having some conversation with the board and one of the board trustees, and we used this firm in the past, and they have an excellent history and success rate, and we wanted to be synonymous with working with the best and the finest attorneys in California, and so that's why we're bringing this firm to you today. And the good thing about this contract, it's on an as-needed basis.
Any questions?
I already asked my questions, and
Okay. So this contract is just to establish a business relationship. So if we do have need in the future to request services from this law firm, we will have this in place. So, may I have a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion that we approve the agreement for special services between Atkinson, Andelson, Loya, Rude, and Romo.
Thank you. May I get a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Our next item is a very similar item. This is a agreement for legal services on a request basis between Albany Unified School District and Lozano Smith.
Like,
Dr. Wells?
oh yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Like the previous contract, Lozano Smith, and this is one that's a little more well-known because they're recognized throughout the country for their work in civil rights, also major litigations around humanitarian efforts, and they have some of the most recognizable attorneys with the chief expertise. And so I bring this to the board for consideration for approval so that we can have resources and access to the top attorneys in California.
I am happy to move that we accept this agreement myself. Can I get a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Our next item is 12-3, Ocean View Elementary Education Specifications.
Okay. This item, the educational specification for Ocean View Elementary School require board approval in order for the school district to be able to pursue any or all available funding from the state seismic program, modernization funding programs, or new construction funding programs, or any other funding programs become available. And Laura Mass is here this evening to answer any questions the board might have.
Ms. Shen, can we bring up this beautiful brochure? And I hope that many people will find a few minutes to go through this because this is really a wonderful presentation of the educational program that we're creating for Ocean View. I wonder if you can go to page 4. Yes. So this acknowledgement page lists the people who have worked so hard to making the new Ocean View a great school. There have been countless lengthy meetings and a huge number of experts, including at least a half dozen of Ocean View's expert teachers, who have put a great deal of thought into exactly what we're building in every aspect of these classrooms. One thing that that is not here is that during the process of selecting the architect and contractor team that would be creating this building, there were a number of parents involved, and those parents put a lot into this process also. Off the top of my head, I don't know everybody, but I do remember that both Sarah and Rachel Anderson were involved in those long interviews, and I wanted to give a shout out to them and the other Ocean View parents who were also involved. And then if you can move on, I'm sure that Lauren Moss will have things to say about this. But if you do go to page 10, I wanted to point out one thing to the board, which is that at the bottom of the page you see in blue, it says transitional kindergarten. And I wanted to make it clear to the board that what was considered was to, right now our transitional kindergarten program is at ACC. And when this building is built, there will be the opportunity to have transitional kindergarten on site, which means our youngest learners will start at a school site, be in transitional kindergarten, move to kindergarten, and stay at the same site until 5th grade. So the specific needs of TK were considered because the building specifications are different for that grade and the facilities that you need to supply. And with that, I would just like to turn it over to Lauren Moss, our architect from Gould Evans, if there's anything else that she wants to point out.
Hello, members of the board. I'm Lauren Moss. Thank you, Kim. So I just wanted to make this clear that this is not actually a programming document. It's actually a document that reflects the pedagogy of the school and how the learning environments and the design approach reflects the way that the teaching environments and learning environments need to work in order for the teachers and the administrative staff and the students to get the most benefit out of the school. So that's how this education specification is written, essentially. It is a document that is reviewed by California Department of Education, and it is part of the permitting process. So this document, as is or with edits, needs to be approved by the board in order for us to pull our Division of State Architect permits in the next few months. So just wanted to let you know that it is a required document that needs to be reviewed by the board and approved.
Board, I think we've all had a chance to look at this as it was in the agenda packet. Are there any questions?
I had just wanted to comment that it was very impressive document, and I wasn't sure if it had, if there was like a template for it, or if it all came out of the energies and thoughtfulness of the staff at Ocean View and yourselves. But you're stating it's basically the state is requiring this now.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll be seeing this going forward as well,
Yes, and
at Marin.
And I did take a look at the annex education specification that was provided and tried to sort of tailor it in the same sort of language and format, because I thought since maybe several of your board members had reviewed it, it might be an easier format to understand. But it is, you can review they vary in the way that they are fashioned, I will say. But this is somewhat of a straightforward, more traditional approach.
And I did have one specific question as I was reviewing the document. There was a comment, I think in a couple of places, that had to do with the location of the principal's office. So you're aware of the question in terms of
I was
security?
aware of the question. Juan Barroso had forwarded it to me.
Oh, okay, very good. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, so I think the statement, I think it was on page 25. Would it help if I were to read?
I had it marked as page 25 and 26.
26. So what it says is, as part of the administration building documentation, it says, about halfway down, a secure entrance for families and other school officials, vendors during the school day is the primary threshold for the campus. The principal's office is located in the northwest corner of the administration building, with direct views to the entrance, the reception, and the family courtyard, all eyes on the campus. So being highly accessible, the principal can provide valuable support for all the Ocean View families. So I think, if I understood your question, it was whether or not the principal really had direct views of what I would understand you to mean, maybe the security gate.
Correct, the Jackson Street entrance.
So there's a Jackson Street entrance that has a security gate. The gate will be open, the doors will be open at start of school and at the end of school, and any time that the school staff would like to have those gates open, maybe for an early release day and other times. The rest of the time, that gate is secured shut, and all entrants, students, families, other staff members, need to come through the lobby reception area, check in, and then there's a door that will take you out to the family courtyard and put you inside the campus. So it's a fully secure campus. The principal's, if you look at the lines of sight, the principal's office does not actually have a direct line of sight to that secure gate, and that was not something that the principal had requested directly, and I'm not sure we had really taken that to be sort of a guiding principle, maybe for principal as a design element for her placement in the building relative to that family courtyard. But she does have her eyes on everything coming through that entry area when the gates are open, the family courtyard where all the families share time with their students and staff, teachers, and she's directly adjacent to, he or she would be directly adjacent to the lobby reception area. But there is not a direct line of sight.
Mission, can you move up to the previous page? There's a thumbnail there. So, Lauren, if you want to point out some features there in the reception building.
So what you can't see is that there's a corner window right here, and the gate is right there, right to the left of the double doors, and then that connects with another building. So he or she, if they were in the corner, it's a little obstructed the view to the security gate, but at the time that the gate is closed, everyone will be coming through the reception and the lobby area, which is intended to be that safe and secure entry. And when the gate is open, she has direct views into the entire courtyard and that entry area. There's actually only two entrances that I believe will be used, and that's on Jackson Street and another entrance on the north that's coming from the existing play yard area.
I had asked the question because, well, as a former principal, that's sort of one of our jobs, the security of the campus. But in terms of it, I think the document sort of states that the principal has a direct view on the entrance. And so then when I kept on going, seeing this, I said, I don't see the direct view, but you're explaining that. And the other question I then had is when the entrance is secure on Jackson Street, is there the community parents have to push a button and then the people inside the reception open up the door?
No, I think you can just come directly into the reception area.
So it's not a lockdown at all? It's going to be open?
Yeah, so Clementina, so if you look at, this is a little bit too high for Lauren to point out, but there's a set of double doors that go into the reception area. So rather than going through the gate, which would be closed during most of the school day, then parents arriving would come through those doors into reception and sign the book and get their tag, and then they would go out into the family courtyard through the other set of double doors. Oh, there we go.
I thought it might be helpful to see the relationship of the buildings.
Yeah. If you bring that down just a little bit, maybe, Julie? There, yeah, so that's more reachable.
So this is the administration building that we're talking about, and this is the principal's office here in the corner, and there's that security gate. So again, as I said, direct adjacency to the lobby reception area. This is, as I understand it, an unlocked double set of doors to provide that welcoming feeling. If you needed it to be locked during a lockdown, all of the doors will be locked in a lockdown. So for additional security when needed.
Quick question since you brought that up, the lockdown piece of it, is there a mechanism in place where it would all, like the principal can activate that? Or
Yes, that's all done through the technology system. Every exterior door has a card reader on it and a mechanism by which all the hardware can be locked when needed.
Madam President, I'm going to caution us that we be careful with security issues, and that what we can do is have a subsequent meeting around issues with the security issue because they shouldn't be made public. So that's all.
Right. And as much as I love the architectural drawings, now that I've gotten more used to reading them, I wonder if we can go back up in the report to some of the renditions. There were 2 color renditions earlier in the report, I think on the introduction page and a few pages further. Yeah.
The renderings?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. So that's the entrance that that we've been discussing, with the main entrance through the large gates, but that very welcoming reception area with like the to your left. So when the gate isn't open, parents and students would enter in through reception and then straight out another pair of doors on the other side of the gate. And then if we go down some more pages, there was another picture, another rendering from the library patio. There we go. And that's right outside the library, which is in the heart of the campus, and a covered portion of the patio there. And that's looking back towards
Jackson Street.
Yeah, the Jackson Street entrance right there. Okay. So do we have any other questions? Are we ready to make a motion to accept this so that we can get this project underway? Okay. I will move that we accept the Ocean View Elementary Education specifications. Can I get a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for being here
Really
tonight.
looking forward to building this project.
Item 12-4 is our 2018-19 unaudited actuals financial report. This will be presented by Chief Business Official Jackie Kim.
Thank you. This item, this will work. This presentation is for fiscal year 18-19 unaudited actual. See if I can make this maybe a little different. So unaudited actual meaning that, throughout the year, we have a budget adoption, first interim report, and second interim report, and this unaudited actual, meaning this unaudited actual is the real number report. The rest is budget numbers, projection numbers. However, this is now actual revenues and actual expenditures. By September 15th of each year, we are required to submit this report to the County of Ed, and this unaudited actual report will be audited by the district auditor and reported out to the board in January 2020. So it became audited actual once the auditor audits. Okay, so the impact to fiscal year 1920, the closing of this 18-19 books affects the beginning fund balance of fiscal year 1920, which is a current year. And actual fund balance for all funds will be adjusted, and this adjustment will be seen on the first interim report. The first interim report is period ending October 31st, and I will bring this to the board in December 2019. And all the grant and LCAP carryover are posted for the new year after the board approves the report. So the board is being asked to accept this report this evening so that we can, the all fund balance can be posted in 2019-20 budget. Okay, and this is the highlights of this closing. So the state funds the school district based on the attendance, not the enrollment numbers. So ADA is really critical for the school district. And our actual ADA was 3,552, which was an increase from last year, about 9 ADA. And the district are funded based on greater love adjusted prior year LDA or the current year ADA. And we are getting funded on a current year ADA. And except for the contributions made to the restrict programs, all federal, state, other restrict categorical programs are self-funded, which is like Title I, Title II, Title III. General fund do not contribute extra money. They are self-funded. However, I'm going to go over a few programs that general fund will have to contribute, which is about $6,457,000. So these are the programs. So special ed programs, general fund contributes about $4.5 million. And ongoing major maintenance, about $1.5 million. And there is about 3% requirement from the state that we will have to spend 3% or contribute 3% from the general fund to the facility fund. And transportation of $200,000 and others about $136,000. Others seems a little higher this year because about $100,000 we contributed to energy efficiency grant. So we received about $800,000 in 2014 to 2016. And out of $800,000, we spent about $400,000 for annex solar panel. And the other money went to the LED lights in Aquatic Center and the gym lights at Albany High School, gym lights at Albany Middle School, and also those new thermostats at the high school, Cornell, and that. So now they can actually adjust those HVAC systems through the app on the phone. So those are the new upgrade. However, the general fund has to contribute about $100,000, and grant money was about $800,000. So this is a highlight of the closing. So we are now officially closed the book, and we have, compared to budget number, and this is the actual number, we have about $900,000 more than what we budgeted. I'm gonna go over that more details later on, but here, so 3% reserve, this is 3% of our total expenditures, and assigned, meaning this assigned is for next 3 outgoing years for the deficit spending, and the rest is just unassigned. So this is one of the explanation of those $900,000. So we received about $290,000 more in the special education revenue, and we spent about $220,000 less in special education expenditures. Majority of these were legal settlement. So 17, 18, we spent about $440,000 in legal settlement, meaning the district pays families for those instructional programs or extra curriculums and counselings if we don't provide those services to the families needed. However, 18, 19, we spent about $230,000, so there's about savings of $210K for the legal items. So the combination of those two items is about $510K. It's result in savings to the general fund because, in other words, the $510K was not transferred out of general fund into a special education program. Okay, the next item will be, we have a lot less paid leave of absence. So these are the items of the paid leave of absences. So when you look at the 16, 17 numbers, we have about 400,000. 17, 18 number, we have 600,000. So when we budget 18, 19, we budget about 500,000, which is a reasonable amount. But then in 18, 19, we only spent 240,000. So there's savings of 260,000 between the budgeted numbers and the actual numbers. However, I just wanted to point this out here. We will continue to budget conservative about 500,000 again this 1920, based on the historical data because this is the data that I cannot ignore. And I also checked in with HR as of today, and we currently have about 5 people on leave and 3 more coming next few months. Okay, and we have a decrease in books and supplies expenditures. This is more of overall in a lot of programs. I think it's just a pure pressure overall for our entire district. And we had some unfilled vacancies and vacancies filled at lower cost. And this is restricted general fund. We also have variances of 740,000, but this is something that we don't have a lot of control over. This is a fund that can be only expended for the purpose of grantor, purpose by the grantor. Okay, and these balances you see about $1 million. This balance represents the money that district received but has not spent as of June 30, 2019. And we plan to spend this money in near future. It could be next year, it could be maybe in 2 years, because some grant terms are, we give you this money this year, however, you can spend this money in next 2 years. Okay? So we have some room to spend this money. And the spending has to be aligned with the grant term. So you will see all the breakdowns why there is some money of $1 million. Next one, this is the overview of our multi-year projection. Now how do we look like after this unaudited number, the actual numbers? So this last item here is what I brought to the board in June for the budget adoption. And so in June, this is what I presented as a current year and next 2 years. So we had third year out over 3%. So now, and this is what we will need to work on. And now this item is the new number after the actual report. So now we have about 5.3 instead of 3.5, about increase of 1.8%. But we still have below 3% here. And this number might fluctuate, depends on, again, unexpected expenditures or unexpected revenues. If the government decides to give us more money, then we might have more money. If we have more leaves or other more expenditures in area that we didn't expect, then we might have more expenditures.
In addition to that, it's important to note here that this projection doesn't include the variable of potential raises for employee groups.
And another important item I would like to point is, so what it changed from this actual report is this is the number. Ending balance of 1819, 6,444,803. This is what it has changed. And that number carries over to now beginning balance of 1920. So now you can see this is a one-time money, like bonus that we actually had from 1819. So it cannot be ongoing spending. So it's just one-time money that it got carried over. Okay, and we have other funds. The district has 9 other funds with expenditure of about 39 million. So the self-administrative unit, which is a pass-through unit, meaning, let's see, here. So you will see 0, 0, 0. That means we received money from the county, which is from state, and we distribute to the other SELPA unit, which is Berkeley, Emeryville, Piedmont, and Alameda County. Alameda Unified School District, right, not the county. Okay. So these are 9 other funds that we have. Child Development Fund is Albany Children's Center, including preschool and after-school programs and food services, different maintenance. We don't really use different maintenance anymore. And also because this is a trend now that we use the 3% of ongoing maintenance fund in general fund restricted, and this is something that not many school districts use anymore. But we do have money because Aquatic Center is putting about $24,000 in the past just to have as their savings. Anything big breaks down, then they can use the money saved in deferred maintenance. Special reserve, currently we reserve the money for the Career Tech Education Program. And the building fund, we have 2008 Measure E bond, 2016 Measure B bond, 2016 Measure E bond. Those are the bond we have, and this building fund will have proceed from sale of the bonds, and the construction expenditures are recorded in the fund. Capital Facility Fund, this is the collection of the developer fees from City of Albany, and also we can spend the money for the growth of Albany School for the capital programs, meaning we pay our potables, district-wide potables from this fund. Because we need more classroom, because we are growing, we need more space. Okay, this county school facilities, we actually currently do not use this fund. However, when we receive the facility hardship grant from the state, and this fund will be used. And bond interest redemption fund. This is something that actually county manage this fund, meaning we have a collection of tax and we have a payment of the board approved bonds fund. So this is the money, this is a fund that tax gets collected and gets paid out. Okay, and this is the summary of all the funds that we just went over. The big number, you will see the building fund, and we have a lot more money here because we issue 2 bonds in August 2018. The next step, so we will continue to monitor enrollment, and we will work with the Budget Advisory Committee to continue to identify ways to maximize revenue, reduce costs within the general fund. And we will communicate with the communities, including our labor partners, about our financial situation and strategies to reduce the structural deficit. And our partial tax LL will expire in July 2021. This is a note. And our final steps for 1819. So this report presented tonight will be submitted to Alameda County of Ed, CDE, and our district auditors. The final financial statement are contained in the audit, which will be presented at the January board meeting. Will be audited actual numbers. Any questions and comments?
I open it up to the board. Go ahead, Member Clark.
Yeah, just a couple things. The first one, I wanted to thank Jackie and Julie for actually getting this to us a little bit early. I know sometimes in the past I had asked if it was ready. You know, I know sometimes it's a lot of work. So thank you for doing it, and I think Julie was the one who sent it to us. It's nice to have it as soon as possible. And also, overall, it's good news, right? I know it's not ongoing money, but we have more money, right? Okay, thank you.
Board Member Duran.
I asked lots of questions, and Jackie was so gracious to meet with me in order to give me a better understanding. So thank you, Jackie, for your time.
VP Doss?
Well, my nickname for Jackie is Rock Star, so she's just living up to that, which is great. One question that I have is, can you talk a little bit about, you spoke a little bit about ACC, but they also have separate funds that they use in order to kind of, keep things running. So you don't have to go into a lot of detail, but can you just talk a little bit about the difference there?
Sure. So, see, ACC is under this Child Development Fund and has a few programs. One is a state preschool programs. The other one is after-school programs. And our bookkeeping is we are separating those two funds. So I actually will have to look at this because I don't remember exact number. See. So an audit actually shows that we actually had net increase of about 4,000, meaning we are really in a good stand. Meaning we didn't have a net loss for this fund, and those two funds separated. Maybe I can go a little more details later on when I have more information in front of me.
That's fine.
Okay, I have a few questions, Ms. Kim. So the Child Development Fund that we're seeing there, it looks like to me that it increased slightly over last, and now we have a balance of $130,000 there.
That's correct.
Okay, and the Child Development Fund is different from the SELPA. My simple way of thinking about the SELPA is that we do the bookkeeping for our SELPA, but it's all pass-through money.
That's correct.
It's not ours.
That's correct.
But the Child Development Fund, those are funds that we hold and that could be spent on something in the future.
Yes, that is correct. So
And-
all of this money are our money except the SELPA.
Got it, okay. So cafeteria food services, I know that for a while last year, we were thinking that we might end up with a deficit situation in food services and that we might have to transfer money from the general fund to cover that. But it looks like they turned that around and that we have a positive balance in food service as well.
Right.
Okay, that's good news. Now, I wonder if you can go back to those restricted fund slides that you had. Okay. The special ed slide, please. Okay, yeah, okay, so we received 290,000 more revenue in special education. My understanding is that part of that was due to a bill that passed in Sacramento this spring that it gave a bit more funding for special ed to the districts according to sort of a strict formula. And do you recall, sorry to put you on the spot, about how much we received through that program? I think it was less than 200,000, maybe 170.
Right. Yeah, I don't recall in the top of my head, but I can get that answer for you. But you are correct. There was more money came in.
So that was just, there was no way to predict that because that was because of a bill that passed last spring.
Right.
Okay. And then we had, we spent a bit less in special education in our own district. And the combination of all of these things meant that there was $500,000 that we expected to have to transfer out of the general fund into the restricted general ed fund that we did not then have to transfer.
That's correct.
Okay. And it seems like in addition to these, this special ed, which I can understand that these were unexpected things that happened during the year, you spoke a lot about the paid leave, which I think is the next slide. So that seems to jump around quite a bit year to year because because babies are unpredictable. It is unpredictable. And you mentioned that we were going to continue. You think it's fiscally responsible to continue to budget this item at about $500,000?
Right, and that is what is budgeted as of now.
Okay.
But we may have to reconsider that with the new projection of how many folks are going to be going on leave this year, which is excessive compared to the year before, so it gets a little tricky.
Yeah. Now, with these differences in fund balances, and with, of course, all the hiring that was done this summer, because you never know what teachers you're going to get, how many years of experience they're going to come in with, where they're going to end up on your step and column chart. So we'll get, in our first interim report, we will see these changes in the fund balances, plus the real data for where people were hired at, which will change our salary and benefits number as well.
That's correct.
So there's going to be a lot of changes that are all going to be wrapped into the first interim report that we see in December.
That's correct.
But at the December time, we still won't have the audited actuals from this past year. You were previously an auditor before you came to our district, so I expect I don't think they're going to find a nickel out of place. But then the first interim comes in December, and then our audited actuals will arrive in January. Okay. I just wanted to get a feel for the process here.
Sure.
Okay, and so board, all that we need to do is this is not a board decision. This is simply we have to accept this report as presented to us before it can be sent to the county. All right. Are there any other questions that people might have thought of?
I have a question, and I realize that this is something that I'm still trying to do a little bit of catching up on, but I'm a fan of asking questions when you don't understand something. All of the budgeting that we were doing last year, making sure that we did not have a structural deficit or making sure that we were addressing it, that was first or at 1.1.5, and then it went to 1.15. Is this 900,000 making that 1.15 or 1.5 even lower, or does this not fit in at all with that?
It does not affect that because this 900,000 extra money we have from this closing is really changing the beginning fund balance of 1920 year. So it's really like a one-time money and like a bonus that we got. The difference between the budget and the extra money. So it's not going to affect any of the structural deficit, because the revenues, expenditures are still budgeted in the same way.
Thank you.
I think it's worthwhile thank you, Michaela, for that question. I think it's worthwhile to spend another moment on that. So the top row, the revenues and other sources, you can see, and you can see the expenditures in the second row there, and we're still projecting a structural deficit for our this year and for our years out. So to me, this means that we really do need to work on establishing a balanced budget. What this difference between our budgeted versus our actuals for last year does for us is it's bought us another year of planning. We were quite close at budget adoption, the bottom row for 21, 22. We were just barely over our 3% limit. And although these further out years, so many things change. You can't really look that far in the future. But this gives us more planning time. But I think it behooves the district and the board to try to figure out very responsible and educationally sound ways to allow this money to extend sort of our safety zone as we move toward a balanced budget. We need to use this money well, and I hope that CBO Kim will come back to us with some with some ideas on how this can be used to ease our transition over to a balanced budget. Does that sound reasonable?
Sure.
Okay. Go ahead, Board Member Clark.
So yeah, to make sure I'm understanding it correctly, so if we talk about smaller ticket items, copiers or whatever, and we use some of this money and then put that into the budget, it could adjust the budget. You're talking about $900,000. You can't get into like big salaries and stuff like that. But I mean, if you keep the $900,000 just in the reserve, it can't do anything good to affect the regular budget. But if you use that $900,000, like I say, for some smaller ticket items, it could change it, right?
Right, right. Of
'Cause it
course.
sounds like when you say no, it's just you plan on just keeping it in the reserve.
Right, so you are correct. We can spend that money for small items like
Correct.
that, and then it can change, right?
Thank you.
Yes, Student Board Member Malak.
In addition to the amazing work CBO Kim is doing, since there is a structural deficit and that's something the Budget Advisory Committee is looking at, are they presenting to the board anytime soon, or is there like a incremental presentation, or?
Yes, thank you for the question. I really appreciate it. In the spirit of being collaborative and transparent, the Budget Advisory Committee is working with us. We're part of the committee, and they're giving input on us putting together a fiscal stabilization plan so that we can have a balanced budget. And so it's a teammanship approach. So the short answer to your question is yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Can I have a motion to accept the 2018-19 unaudited actuals financial report?
Motion to accept the financial report.
May I get a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now we are at item 13, agenda items, matters introduced by the board. Clementine, you want to repeat what you were?
Yes.
You were asking?
I had raised a concern, I think, at the last meeting, and I wanted to see if this year we could develop a few goals for the board that would sort of keep us focused and moving forward. And one of the areas that I was reading about actually had to do with student success and school climate, and that in fact, the main responsibility of a board is to focus on that, on the students and what's going on with them academically and socio-emotional. And so I was hoping that as a board, we could look to possibly having our agendas where we are spending approximately 60% of our time on those two issues that have to do with students specifically. And it would sort of be a goal for us that we would check to be sure that at every meeting, in looking at agenda, we're somewhere around that figure. Because, for example, tonight we're not near that figure. And so I would like to see us move in that direction.
Board Member Clark, did you have a response?
No.
Well, I have a bit of a response. I've seen that also in some of the training materials for boards, and I've never really been able to figure out what that means. Because to my view, everything that we do here in these board meetings is necessary, and I don't. And I guess maybe I'm just more sort of a granular thinker about like exactly what sort of reports and would you be interested in seeing, because I think that would be interesting. You did mention earlier that you were interested in hearing about teacher recruitment, and I'm 100% in favor of that. But what would this look like that you're describing?
One very specific one is the LCAP, because this is our first year of a 3-year plan that we'll be working on this year. And so I would like us, for example, to really be getting into the weeds about that. I know the assistant superintendent is having the meetings. They're all set up for the year, but more importantly, that we have more deeper discussions about that, what is going on, and looking at where our students are academically. For example, we all get the dashboard, or that's part of the work that the LCAP does, but I know in looking at that last year, I was a little concerned that there are other deeper things, like looking at cohorts, for example, and following them year to year and seeing where these kids are, and starting at the elementary level and seeing why is it that our kids seem to be doing well, but somehow at the middle school, that's when, in terms of test scores anyway, they're starting to fall behind, some groups of kids. And so why is that happening? And really getting into that and having discussions with us here. And Madam President, it's not to say that that our items that we had for tonight aren't important and aren't integral to what we need to be doing, but I just feel that if we sort of push ourselves and have an emphasis on addressing the issues that our student trustees would raise and going deeper into those, maybe the health thing around e-cigarettes and what is going on there, major issues nationally, and maybe we need some reports from the students or some feedback from the high school as to what's going on there.
Well, this all sounds
Just an
very
example.
interesting. Can I suggest maybe that you work directly with Assistant Superintendent Williams on trying to suggest a beginning report about some of the LCAP and California dashboard material that you were describing, and then we can bring that in as a specific agenda item. Would that be a good start?
Sure. Okay. I'd love to do that, yes.
Superintendent Williams, how does that sound to you? Sounds?
Assistant Superintendent Williams thinks that sounds right.
Excellent, thank you. Any other agenda? VP Doss.
I got all kind of stuff.
Okay.
One, the parent/teacher that spoke earlier, if you could reach out, I'd love to hear about how your experience is going so far with having a kindergartner and being a new teacher. Also, I'd like you to reach out just because you are new and want to be, inclusive and make you feel comfortable. You don't have to come up back to the podium or anything, but just reach out so we can connect there. As far as items on the agenda, I'd like to put a couple of items. They don't have to be right away, but when there's room to put them on there. One, I was really thinking about the last kind of undertaking, that I was thinking about was breakfast, because kids should eat. And so also I think that we should reward kids and parents for their hard work. So having some type of recognition in place at the elementary school level to celebrate students and their hard work and the things that they, all the work that goes into what they're doing. I can elaborate more, later, through email if you like. But basically, I remember when I was in elementary school, and there would be a few days where I was like, I don't know if I really feel like going today. But then I would remember that if you didn't miss any days, you got this certificate, and then you got to go on this trip that the other kids didn't go on because they missed days. So I'd like to look into that and see. I still have those certificates, by the way. I'd like to look into that and get that on it. And then also a board training, but open to the community. So like a board workshop around diversity and inclusion and other items surrounding that to help us as we continue to govern.
Okay, so I would say that the board training that would also be open to the community about diversity and inclusion is something we could definitely work on. In terms of recognition of students, I just want to step back a moment, and teachers recognize students in their own way, and then school sites have various mechanisms for celebrating student achievement. And so I just don't want to step on anybody's toes here. I think that maybe I'm misinterpreting what you're saying, but I'm not sure what the board's role in that would be. And I'm welcome to hear it from anybody, any members of our community or our staff about that.
Well, no one ran up to the mic, so I'm going to go on. I'm going to go on it. What I think I heard School Board Trustee Doss mention is that it would be good to have an incentive program that would encourage our kids. And I think that is something that's very doable, something we need to go back and revisit to make sure we're doing that at all our schools, and that parents are aware of what we're doing so that when these days come, as Board Member Doss has mentioned, parents could come and celebrate this, be in attendance, be in improvement, and things of that sort. And so those are practices that I'm glad to hear tonight that we can go back and refine, and where we have holes, kind of fill. And so that's how I feel as a superintendent. Very doable and should be part of our program throughout all our schools.
Also, for a quick clarification, not trying to step on anybody's toes, not trying to replace anything that the teachers aren't already doing. They already do a great job. My kids love going to school. I think it's awesome. This, for example, could be something that also happens during the Marin morning. Like, also, let's recognize these awesome kids for these things that are happening. It's just another way to get kids excited about coming to school. Also, funding is surrounded by kids coming to school. There are days when kids miss school, and then there's less money for the district. So I think that does fall under the purview of the board.
Oh, so maybe I didn't hear all of what you were saying. I know
I was
that.
ready for you tonight, Kim.
Well, okay. Well, I'm just figuring this out. So I believe that we are one of the things that the Budget Advisory Committee wanted us to do this year was to have a focus on attendance, and that has been suggested to the board as an action for this year. And also through our dashboard, we have. We don't have the greatest numbers on our attendance. And so we had another nudge from that report that we were going to need to have some programs to encourage attendance. So if we're talking about, that specific area, I think it is a program that the board would certainly like to hear about, and about the incentives that could be offered to students for that. So I'm sorry, I think I just misunderstood at the beginning. I will have to.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question of clarification around that? Would it be sufficient to have staff come back and present on the incentive programs we currently have now and the ones that we're looking at having in the future? Would that be helpful?
I think that's a question for you, Vice President Doss.
I mean, I don't want to add any extra work. I'm pretty involved in the district, so I already kind of know the things that are in place, which is why I suggested this, because I know it doesn't exist. So I don't want to add any extra work. They already got a lot of stuff to handle.
Maybe a Friday report?
But a Friday report through email would be fine.
And I know that there are materials available through a program called Everyday Counts. I don't know how many East Bay districts are using Everyday Counts, but there are prepared programs for improving attendance that exist and that we should probably look into. There's signage that you can put up, and there's posters, and helping kids and parents to understand the importance of being at school every day. Oh.
I had also one thing, if we're done with this conversation. Okay. So I was looking at our governance handbook. Right now, student board members, according to it, aren't given explicitly the right to make motions and second motions. And so I wanted to talk about that sometime in our future meetings in order to write that into the governance handbook to make sure that student board members are explicitly given that right in our district.
Yes, well, okay, let me ask for a second.
Second.
All right, we can get that agendized.
Thank you.
That's, everybody is, you've covered everyone? With that, we are adjourned.